Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Theresa. Scandiffio. I'm the Associate Dean of Animation and Game Design at Sheridan College. And some of you may know us. We're a very large art school that focuses on animation, game design, film and media and production, theater, arts, and animation has been around for over 55 years. Can you all hear me? It's been around for speak closely. For 55 years, so we're regularly able to celebrate our very talented alumni, and many of whom you will hear and see this weekend at LightBox. But today, I have the honor of being the moderator of a pretty incredible powerhouse panel of alumni who all graduated from Sheridan between 2007 and 2010. So if we could start at the end, and we could just say who you are and what you specialize in, what you do, and where you work. We'll just start from there.
Hi, I'm Anna. I graduated in 2007. Go here. Yeah, go right in there.
My name is Anna. I graduated in 2007, the Bachelor of Animation program. And I work here at Mascot Studios as a character.
Hi, I'm Naz. I studied animation at Expo, obviously Sheridan. I majored really in story, and I have worked at many different positions in story, but now directly at Netflix.
Hi, I'm Vivian, and surprise, I also went to Sheridan. I am currently art directing at Disney TVA.
So we were just talking about faculty members and the kind of connection that you have. I talked to many of your faculty, telling them that we were coming here, telling them that I'm honored of connecting with the three of you and other alumni here in this room. And they mentioned very specific details of the careful work that each of you did. They remembered specific kind of comments, and we could kind of play, I guess, a game of who said what later. We often have our mentors, our faculty, or anyone that's had to push on us in our heads as we're doing their work. And I was wondering, if maybe Anna, we can start with you. Like, what advice or what ideas you always had in your head from a faculty member from school?
The most memorable one is basically what I just told you just before, the Jerry Zelvin, my lecturer teacher. He used to tell me to never draw anything mindlessly, but ever to just draw and not think about what you're actually drawing. So always have intent in every stroke before they have any draw about anatomy, about design, and always be very intentional with your drawing and or styles.
Can we just go in a row? You can if you want. Oh, yeah, something that you want to share, that's for sure.
I feel like, from time to time, things will come in my head that I remember that, Mark Marison, one of our professors, kept saying that to me over and over. And actually, aside from his faculty, even the members of, years ahead of us, we had this mentorship program, and Trevor, one of the Pixar artists now that graduated with you, he mentored me for life drawing. And I remember him always emphasizing contrast. And that's something that, applies to story, to drawing, to character design, whatever. But contrast is so important. And often, anytime I think about contrast, I think, you never say it to me that one time and it finally clicked. So,
yeah, I feel the same. I mean, I didn't really know anything about animation. So when I joined Sheridan, I was a blank slate. I feel like everything I know was from the faculty, but it's the students and who become my friends. I remember things that they had told me. I have a really close friend who told me when I'm doing character designs to think of the story of the character and not just draw details because it's cute, which is what I was doing a lot and doesn't matter. So yeah, having access to the other students in faculty Sheridan has been so important to me.
We often talk about, aspirations that you have. Like you just mentioned, you started at the school, presumably because you liked to draw or you liked art, but you didn't really know that world of animation, right? You didn't really know all of the parts that came within. Last, maybe we can start with you. What were your aspirations going into the program, and how did it kind of change or travel as you graduated in your career?
So I always loved animation. I didn't know really what I wanted to focus on, but when I started school, DQ and just like animation, 2D animation really was like something that I was drawn to. You know, you dab into everything, and including story, including even like layout. I remember really loving those classes. But I focused really on 2D animation, and my goal was to come out and go to Disney Feature and be a 2D animator, which in 2009 was not very good in terms of timing. So I started out really wanting to be an animator, but it came to, you know, whether I wanted to draw or whether I wanted to kind of, you know, work with Maya, and it just was a different feel for me. So that's when I, after even actually around 4 years of doing freelance animation at Warner's, just on my own with one director, I decided that maybe, you know, going into story was the way to go, and that's kind of how I switched. So, but it's all the same. Everything kind of, story is so much of everything. It's like, you know, design, it's composition, it's like timing, it's everything. So I feel like everything I knew about animation really does kind of lend itself to that. So I don't know, but yeah, I ended up in story.
And do you feel like you were talking about, you know, why you started and what you thought your path would be like, and can talk about where you landed in the journey? Similarly, did you want to dabble into different pieces when you were at school, depending on the inspiration of your peers, of your faculty or mentors?
Yeah, it should be a probably really interesting being sure to teach you everything, like paint and drawing and storyboarding, and animation. And as a student, I always wanted to be really good at everything, and then you have to realize you can't be good at everything. You have to pick something. And the clutter or draw, because it was like the journey meant that you needed to trust, focus on the drawing, and I have a lot of character photos I think until this day. Like, I always look at the art department, and it's so fascinating to me. But it happened so that I had a summer job to be like second or third year or something at Sheridan, where I just applied, and they taught me how to animate. I was lucky; they just taught me how to animate. Back then it was something much, and they taught me character animation on the job. So I was getting paid, and I was learning how to animate. And I think that's how I basically fell in love with it, because I also loved the team at that time. It was like 2005, ages ago. And I just kind of like, because I loved that experience, that first experience, that's how I kind of stayed there. And I think if maybe I didn't get that experience, I would have been in storyboarding on design, because what just happens.
Right? Yeah. So it's so important at what point the timing of, you know, someone having an impression or being right for you, kind of that alchemy that can match the moment. And you have done so many different magical moments and perfected so many different areas too. What did you know, you said you started in loving art and you left thinking I'm going to be here to what?
I wanted to be a character designer when I graduated. I loved character design, and I was not with students that got a job right out of school, and I found that really hard at the time. I ended up working at a bank for 2 years before I actually broke into the animation industry. And yeah, like I felt at the time like, okay, this must have been an failure, because I had spent 4 years studying to do this thing, and it just didn't work out. And seeing other students get jobs, I felt like they were good and I'm not. So that was difficult, but I was very passionate about character design, so I ended up continuing to draw characters in my free time, and ended up completely redoing my portfolio in those 2 years. And I kind of just focused on what I liked to draw, which was like cute girls wearing nice outfits, like which I had. And a friend of mine reached out to me because they were covering up for a show that I would be a good fit for on the character team. And I ended up working on that show. So it's called Ever After High. For some of you might know.
Daughter loves that, by the way. Just saying.
So if you don't know, it's a Mattel show based on a doll line. So, you know, what I was doing in my free time, suddenly it just like fit that I was going to get to do that professionally. And it was amazing. I've met, you know, people that I still work with to this day. So yeah, like breaking into the industry was difficult for me, but then once I did, and I've been pretty lucky. Like I haven't really had hiatuses between projects, and I've been working for 10 years in the industry, just kind of project to project. So if anyone in this room ends up in a similar situation, you don't get that job that you want right out of school, just don't. Like if you persevere, it's okay. It's fine. It can still work out.
So I imagine there are a lot of people at this conference, at this festival, potentially in this room, thinking about that, right? That's kind of self-doubt and thinking about why am I not landing this piece? Maybe, and if we could start with you, did you realize when you were at school that perseverance and resilience were going to be required skills as an artist? It's like, what did that hit for you?
Yeah, I think even before I got into Sheridan, just getting in the program, I already learned that. And then once I was in there, I saw all the amazing people alongside with me, and I realized I had so much to learn. And just like seeing how everybody's so good, and even now at work, like you just getting inspired and just forward just by what's happening around you all the time. So yeah, that's a constant. I think it never ends. This kind of like one.
Yeah, to second that feed, I feel like I learned it early on when I was applying. I didn't get into the program at first, and then I got into art fundamentals, so I was there for about a year, and I met some mentors, and they really kind of nurtured me, and I finally got it. But I feel like just with art in general, it's a growing experience. You're always, if you ever think you're great, you're probably in denial and you're stuck. So I feel like there's always ways to improve and grow, and you learn that just by doing art, starting in art. You're never, unless you're just some magical unicorn, then you are great from the top. But for me, that's been the experience. It's just growing, and it's part of the deal.
I think, that seems to be the secret recipe of a lot of that we're talking to is, maybe applied to the program 2, 3, 4 times before they got in, maybe applied to that job 8, 9, 10 times, and just kept going and kept going and kept going. We talked about these kind of competencies and resilience and perseverance and staying positive, and I keep hearing this common thread of, it's my teammates, it's my classmates, right? When I was in school, it was your peers that helped you. Now it's your coworkers, it's people in the pipeline with you. Leah, can you talk about the importance of teamwork and collaboration in the work environment?
Yeah, it's fundamental, working with your team. In my current role as art director, I apply so much on the artists that are on my crew. My leads are incredible, and I give a lot of responsibility to them, as well as to every single artist on the team. We're trying to encourage everyone to bring their contribution to the project, give direction, but also always be open to someone being like, hey, I was thinking of doing it like this, or I had this, other idea that was different than what I wanted. That's where I see the things that I like the most in our project happen, is when someone else is making a creative contribution to the project. So especially being in a leadership role, you can't do it all alone. It's just impossible. Our crew is huge, and we just need to work with everybody. You need to get along with personalities. You need to find ways to, just make it work. Animation is an incredibly collaborative job. It's not like when I was at the bank. So, teamwork is just fundamental to being successful in this industry.
You talked about leadership, and then we're talking about all these layering of skills, right? We're talking about the artistry and the different technical skills, and then different ways to stroke. And with your sketching, don't use to stroke as I'm sticking my head too. And then you're talking about perseverance and resilience when it doesn't work out, when you're frustrated, moving for bed, but flipping a table for an artist, right? Thinking about how you release and the perseverance. And then you talk about leadership. So now as a director, what are the leadership competencies that you need to figure out? And were those seeds there when you started, those group projects at school when you're all kind of the equivalent, or where are those seeds or those pathways? Because I think there's a sense that it's just, to get from being a student or an unemployed artist to grow through DR is just very mysterious to a lot of people. And if you could talk a little bit about the leadership and maybe some of those stepping stones or skills you've learned in different pockets of spots.
Yeah, I think one of the most critical things is like finding your own voice. A lot of times I think when I started school, I wanted to be like other artists or, imitate someone that I really admired. And I found that, I think we were talking about strokes earlier, like I have a double line, I can't shift. Like it's just the way I draw. It's an animation type drawing. I do double lines. And then I admire Glenn, who is so rough with his drawings, but so much like raw emotion in them. So there's this like weird balance, and just the way I am is that I do the double line. So really seeing your own abilities, your own voice, even in terms of story. Like everyone has different personalities. I'm definitely more like on the emotional comedy side, but I definitely like action as well. So in terms of like having a team, being able to first off find your own voice, so then you can kind of have an opinion and speak up. I think that was something that I learned. So starting in school, I was probably more shy, a little bit more timid. I had a hard time really saying what I wanted. And being in the industry, learning, my voice matters and really speaking out in the rooms that I am in now. I think that's part of it. And then also seeing that in other people. So, I have people on my team that I specifically go to for the action sequence because I know they love it, or they might hate it, but they're really good at it. Or someone that is really emotive and really will give you that kind of like moments that you want the people at the audience to really feel. So being able to delegate is part of the deal. And like you said, like teamwork, this is why I'm in this industry. Through COVID, had such a hard time just being isolated and being back in my group, seeing pitches in person, seeing people reacting live to somebody, laughing when, they're pitching and letting them know that it is going well, like when we were doing Zoom, you couldn't hear anybody else and everyone else was like, their screens were off and they were muted, so it's just such a big part of it, collaboration. And also as a leader, I think what I've noticed from other leaders is what has worked for me is having the proper confidence in me. So when you get the role, they want you to deliver, obviously, but it also, you're there for a reason. And that's what I hope to, put out there with my team and hope that they feel valued as well. I don't know if that answers it. I kind of went on a tangent.
No, you went on a journey of how you got from A to B. I think a lot of people, you need a little bit of the specifics and those examples as road signs for people. So it's not just like, try hard, token up. It's like, we're token up what? Like, are we doing this right? Right? What are the kind of patterns? And it will lead you to sorry, go ahead.
Although I never help leadership position, but I think that the guys were saying, I have like trusting your capabilities even in front of the leadership. It's always advocating for yourself. So just like you are the old leader, and you have to that you are afterwards. It's very easy after getting a lot of the criticism feedback, and you're obviously not perfect, and nobody is. And it's really easy to like get the imposter syndrome and to feel like, oh, I don't belong here, what am I doing? And then cause that other wins. Focus on the small wins. That's what I learned. Like I spoke with other animators recently, and just focus on the small wins when it's not going well. Then it's quite the mind. So it's huge.
You mentioned Zoom. So I was thinking about this ever-present question that all of us are thinking about, which is, remote or in-person studio work. And I just wanted to do like a poll here. How many people would prefer to be remote in your work always? That's right. And how many people would prefer to be in person? And how many people would prefer hybrid? Yeah. And some people are just not into it. So they're not into it. Which is fine. There's so much more. Yeah. So, and I don't know if you could jump up on this discussion, but it's like, where do you see this future? Do you think in your area? Does it, what's your preference? And, where do you see the industry? Just a light question. Where do you see the industry going outside in the future of work? Or do you know? I don't think anyone knows.
Yeah. But I feel like for in my department, at least where I like my areas, I see that hybrid is probably good because some people prefer one, some prefer the other.
avoid one way only or the other way only. So you're always into something. So hybrid is probably the way you go. And you see open space to this flexibility, see the people more horrible work-life balance. And I think it's something that's very, very good for us.
So as a character animator, where are the strengths and bends of being able to do it remotely, and where are you like, oh, I wish I could just be in person to show X, Y?
Yeah, I think for animators, like you meet a person with other animators or have dailies and feedback in person, and we would get director time in person is really good because there's a lot of reactions that you get from the show you shows that is unspoken. You just feel the energy, and sometimes when they explain to you some acting ideas, you're just looking through the Zoom, many people are talking, giving you ideas, and you can't find everything in Zoom. It's really a lot of like to see everything. So being in person and feeding off each other, and also having random encounters in hallways and speaking. Like I learned so much just like in the studio recently. Like started just speaking to people during lunchtime, in the hallway, asking questions that I didn't even realize I had. And if I was like, oh my god, then probably less, like a little bit more awkward or less easy, like more difficult to kind of get those answers or so. But then sometimes staying at home and when you're in crunch time and you have to work really long day, it's so much easier to just take water today and do it all and try this on yourself.
As a director, what's it like doing it remotely versus person?
Yeah, I kind of have a similar experience. It's hybrid right now. You're right. Like when someone's working on a sequence and they're busy, or we're all on a crunch, it's kind of okay. Everybody is left alone to do it at their own pace. But when you're brainstorming, like right now, we're kind of doing a revamp on our project, and so we meet up as a group and we talk about what we've developed in the last week. So maybe we have mixed of both. So people work in or out of the office, but for that big meeting, when we do kind of like pitch it, most of us are in the house. And like you said, like there might be things that you would break up naturally that you wouldn't if you had to do it in Zoom, because you'd have to like set up an appointment. It becomes a very formal thing rather than it being very organic. And story is very organic. So I don't know. It's a mix for us too. Favorite preference?
Yeah, I prefer hybrid. We're still on our trip completely remotely. We're supposed to get set up to go to the office actually next week, but it's not clear when the artists are going to go in. I feel like the art department runs really well remotely, so I prefer hybrid to give people the option. If they want to stay home, they can. But I really miss the collaboration of just kind of having everyone in so that you can talk to people, kind of see what they're doing. And like personally, as an art director, I miss being at the studio because I feel like a lot of my interactions with the team are just like, here's your handout, here's some notes. And, like there's a little like, how's your weekend? But you don't really get to know someone as well as when you're in studio and like sitting next to someone who's talking about like the date they had last night. I kind of miss the more organic connection to people. And then also I feel like it's probably difficult for Orange Junior artists who are going to work completely remote, because this actually answers an earlier question you had, but what do I remember? What is stuck in my head is I sat next to my art director on a draft archive for years, and a lot of what I'm doing now when I'm doing paint overs or revisions is like stuff that he has said that's in his head. Like he was showing before and afters all things he was doing, because it was so easy to just look over and be like, oh, like why did you change that, and not explain it to me. But that's something that you just cannot get remotely. So yeah, I when we do a hybrid to give the work-life balance that I think we struggle with in this industry, but to also keep those learning opportunities elements going on.
You just talked about sitting beside a more seasoned person to be able to learn kind of also the sense or learn by just by seeing and being. And I'm curious of this idea of mentorship and mentors you've had and you were just starting out and how that's kind of changed also with everything that's happened the last couple of years in the boats and people changing areas. Naz, can you talk about if you had or had strong mentors and if you are now playing that role of mentor, and how does he do it?
Yeah.
A lot to say on this. No.
Lean in and get in there. there used to be, like, back in school when I was animating on my short, I kept listening to this podcast. So listening to Glenn talk, you know, to Dean Dubois, to like all these different artists that I admired, just talk about their experiences. That was really the only source of, you know, mentorship that I had when I started out. And I think there's formal mentorship, which actually we have now at Netflix. That's been really great. We're just hiring someone right now just to get into the industry, which is really exciting. I think I interviewed on Friday. I was like, I wish this was happening when I was around. You know, I didn't have that. But you kind of find your own way of getting mentorship, like you were saying, like sitting next to somebody, seeing other artists working. You learn so much from them. So I kind of learned that way. And directors I liked, directors I didn't like. So there were people that were collaborative, some that were like, you know, to themselves, hiding and like just kind of vibe, like they just wanted to be left alone. So there's like people that you gravitate towards, you learn from, and you learn what you like and what you don't like. And I think that's been kind of my own life. But I'm lucky now that, you know, Paul Griggs is leading our project, and I'm in the same space as him. He's been kind enough to really, you know, show me a lot more than I've been exposed to, I think. So that's been fun to finally get a little bit of that mentorship. When it comes to my own, because I lacked it so much, I tend to want to help artists often. So actually, I should put a shout out to Lexi, who boarded on my Trolls series on from DreamWorks. And she actually started out as like a revisionist, and she was actually coming from production. So she just started it, and she's so excited. And I could really see potential in her. We helped nurture her, and she got promoted to story. And she helped me on a little short I did, Diabolical Boy 3D, and that actually got her an Emmy. So I was like, just seeing her on stage, and I didn't ask her to call me up, but she did, and I was like, it felt bigger than me winning anything, because it was like someone that, you know, I wish I had that experience when she felt that through me. It was like the biggest blessing. I don't know. I never had it. I hope to give it to other people, but maybe I'm getting a little bit of exposure to it now.
Okay. So, you know, Anna, you were talking about different people that you had kind of in your head, or different people. Do you find for a character that you were able to get mentors that kind of guided you through? Were they people in your area? Were they, you know, directors, people and other components that kind of helped influence and guide you?
He was definitely in the beginning of my career, I kind of like past that I couldn't find the mentors, and there was nobody who was there. I didn't know where to go, because when we graduated, I graduated in 2007, the online like animation was just starting with the community. I think animation mentor just opened. It was supposed to start doing it. I used to go to this blind doctors forum. It was after work. It was like very first, like when you shared the Pixar secrets, I was like reading it, oh my god, this is amazing. And then later, like as I was navigating the later years, I started seeking my own mentors. Like I started taking online classes, made to packs, going with Andrew Chestworth. Literally, like almost, like I was at some point, I was like on the verge of quitting, because I felt like it's not going anywhere. Like I can't get like what I want. And then I took that initiative. And when I wasn't getting opportunities that I wanted in the industry, I gave myself my own opportunities, and I was steps like take those classes, online courses, meeting people, getting motivated. And it made like really like a huge difference. Even up to like, literally like up to like 6 months before I got to Pixar, I took a class with somebody who's right there, picked up the phone. He's an amazing animator, and yeah, I'm very grateful to him, because it was also like another like really motivating thing for me. And I remember after every class, I was like, oh my god, this is so amazing, and I've learned so much, and I can do this. So if you can't get a mentor, or if you don't think that you're advancing, there's always someone to go. Always like take that class, advocate for yourself, look for people. And even if people around me, like animators around me, I will go and I would literally interview like people who are my friends. Because sometimes they're just friends, you don't think about asking them all these questions, but then if you start asking them, how do you do this, how do you, then it would be surprised and you find out some of them were. It's around you.
Yeah, you talked about having your friends. You look a crew front hair. were some of the people that really pulled you through and followed you when you were at school that continue now? Is that the same now as you still have this group of people that are kind of counseling you or encouraging you when you're mentoring them? Because I think that's a really important point. People tend to think of mentorship as like a top down, like up and down and not side to side. So can we talk a little bit about, I think it's a little bit more specific when we talk about that collaboration or we talk about that teamwork. That's that kind of generosity, right? I'll stop talking enough.
Question though, can you talk about what is like the peer-to-peer mentoring?
Yeah, I think it's actually like listening to you, Hannah. I feel like that's kind of the mentorship that I've had has been, with friends, Kara and Theresa right here. They're both extremely talented, and everyone has like the one thing that they're really good at, and it's helpful to look at, someone who's they both work in different departments than I did. I've learned so much from them, and our other friends as well. So I think, like mentorship has this idea of someone that was one person who's going to give you advice, like play all the tricks for the. And it's really hard to find someone who's has a similar experience as you that you can relate to, that has the time to do this. Like it's difficult. So for me, I'm never afraid to ask people questions. Like just last week, I have this perspective tool that I use in Photoshop, and I need to come over to the Disney laptop because we're going back to work, and I can't use that tool anymore on their machine. So I was talking to my background design lead, being like, how are you doing perspective at this other trick that I hate? Like, what are you doing? And she sat and showed me something that is so simple, and I had, it's changed my life. I was like, watch out, you're getting a lot of perspective notes now. But it's incredible. And so, not being afraid of, I guess, just because the art director doesn't mean I have to know everything. In fact, it's the exact opposite. I'm there to put the pieces together. So I look for answers and tips from everyone, everywhere. If a color designer, we work in harmony, does something that blows me away, I will sit and be like, how did you do this? This looks awesome. Because then I want to give that direction to someone else. I'd be like, hey, speak to Jason. He did this really cool thing on this other episode. So, it doesn't have to be one person. Just look at around what other people are good at, and then we can get a lot of mentorship that way. So I'm going to go back to the office a little bit.
I wanted to throw it to the audience to hear specific questions or comments or anything you wanted to ask. And why don't we start with one of the mentors? Can we say, I don't know if you could speak loudly or speak in the microphone.
I'll speak loudly.
There's that choice, thank you.
Oh, I just want to know what that perspective tool was.
Me too. Oh my gosh, okay.
I'll explain it real quick. It doesn't make sense. I'm making to sentence. Yeah. She draws the horizon line out, and it just uses the pen tool. She draws 3 points with the pen tool. So if you hopefully you can envision what I'm saying here. You're doing 3 points like this. The middle point, she puts that as her perspective point, and because it's a vector, you can move that off your canvas so you can get the perspective really far away and get those far perspective points that are hard to do. And then she uses the 2 other anchors, because it's like this. So I hope this makes sense. It's a weird example. But she uses these 2 to just draw the lines, and because it's vector, again, she can move that line and just hit draw this line. So she's not just getting super straight lines very quickly, just moving the points around. And she's got her 2 or 3 perspective points just going at once. And so it changed my life, because I was using the star tool, and there's a lot of lines in there, and it's just messier, and it's hard to draw screen and look at files. So pen tool, little triangle, play with that. It's great. Shout out to Dee Chavez, because she gave me this tip, so she's awesome.
We have a question? Yes, at the back.
I'm a high school senior now, or this year, and I'm going to graduate, this year, I guess. And so I was looking at different colleges, and especially at Sheridan, and I was just wondering, how does the transition of being in Canada, coming to America, is that a hard transition compared to being in American school, or is that okay?
Did everyone hear that question? Okay. Who wants to take it first? There's a little tricky. Let me start. Okay. Are you a citizen or no? So I think for you,
just a random thought.
Yeah, for you, you'll be fine either way. I think a Canadian might have visa things to deal with, they do, but having the bachelor program really does help you get to work in, the States. I think that's the general consensus. I do have a few friends that did go to Sheridan and they were U.S. citizens, and they talked about how less expensive it was for them. So that's great, from what I've heard, but you guys want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, my partner spent time here and had a green card, so it was easier for him to come back. He wasn't a citizen, but he had roots in States. I moved here this year for this job, and it was honestly a nightmare. Being Canadian is really hard to get the work visa. It was a whole process. It took me 7 months actually. So, yeah, hopefully you guys are all aware.
That being said, though, I do have a lot of Canadian friends that did come from my area alone, and I did see them talk about it often, but they managed to stick around and now have green cards through work or from their partners. So it's for you. You're a U.S. citizen. You don't have to worry about the general Canadians out there that are listening. It's doable. It's a challenge. It's another curveball, but I feel like even Netflix has been really good about making sure that the talent that is here from Canada has something to land on after. So there's a bit of that going on. People are aware of the situations.
Are you asking what it would be like for you to be in Canada as well? Is that part of it as well, or are you asking for their experience?
A little bit too, yeah, like how to connect with people, like
Out here.
Yeah. So each cohort, each year, there's 150 just the animation alone. There's also another 150 illustration, gate design. There's a huge art community. It's the largest art school in Canada. So even within just Sheridan itself, in the campus and the dorms, there's sketch crews. There's an extra life drawing where you can draw from life. Dogs. They have the zoo trips. They have fair and amusement trips all the time. And there's there's within an innovation club. There's a queer book club. There's all kinds of student clubs across the colleges, and there are many international students at the college. So it's the huge community of sketching, of trips, of supporting each other. And I'd like to think it doesn't matter where you're from, right? You're all kind of in the same place because you have different interests and shared interests with different skill sets and diverse experiences, and so that's all built in because collaboration and teamwork and camaraderie is core to art. It's core to the community. So you would be welcome. But the question then about work visas and permits, that comes after your degree, and there's a whole team of people that would help with co-op placements, job placements, and internships. So it's a collaborative thing, and it takes a community. So that means that you'd be surrounded by supports. Yeah.
It kind of ties off what you're just saying, but it's something I've actually never really known. The degree that Sheridan gives, do you need that to get your visa if you're Canadian?
Yes.
You need it.
Yeah. Yes.
Well,
When I was coming here, I was going not even as a character animator, but as a graphic designer.
Yeah.
Based on the graphic design degree that I had before I went to Sheridan, because the character animator is not recognized as a profession to get a visa. Yeah, so I found out this.
but you need to do that degree. Well, yeah, and I did that at grad school cinema studies to work. People, when I got my job in the States, were like, so you're a cinematographer? I was like, yes. I'm a cinematographer. But they see like that's what it would sound.
Right, can I just add that as a whole, the experience at Sheridan, and that's what you're asking about, it was wonderful for me. You get everything that you want to out of it. So if you really put in the time, it really felt like a community where I could grow and learn. And to this day, I wish I could go back and really do it right even more. So if you put in the time, you get what you get, but there has been people that just kind of cruise through and then they complain about not getting jobs. So there's, that's, you just gotta put in the time. But yeah, it's a great school. It's the Cal Arts of Canada. So.
I should have back and then I'm after.
Yeah, sorry if you mentioned this already. I came a little late. But you spoke about co-op placement. I don't know if you meant like studio worker co-ops.
Yeah.
If so, I'm really interested in knowing more about that.
So in the third year of the degree, students in our art school it's called work integrated learning or experiential learning. And so you're connected to a studio, maybe you do 40 to 20 hours of work. And then often it can be like a part-time position in your fourth year. They'll be discouraged that because we go on into be all about the community and the work, but you keep that connection with those studios. And then in the fourth year, students do their own individual projects, which we could talk about in less, and then what. But they have all their classmates helping with that, and then there's a big showcase. A lot of these films are then in the third year fruit film, the fourth year independent film are often then circulated at various film festivals around the world. Then there's a big thing called Industry Day, where there's a showcase in the job fair and work. But usually over 90% of the students have already received employment for their placement by the time the Industry Day shows up. But it's about getting the community together. It's about the industry all seeing each other as well. So like if you were coming as recruiters, you'd also get to connect with your peers. And it's a way for you to get a sense of, there's internships in Canada. There's also internships at the US student studios. So we're talking about Pixar and DreamWorks and Disney and Netflix and Warner. So there's like different types of internships and placements that you could get either for your third year work placement as part of your credit or for your fourth year internship outside of post graduation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Did you have any follow-up questions about that?
Yeah, I'm curious about the co-op.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I met Renegade Animation out here, and so for my co-op, I lined up an internship with them, so I was out here for 3 months, and actually many of my friends from the same year were at 6 Point Martis, which was like another small studio. So it doesn't have to be necessarily big studios, it can be the smaller ones. But yeah, we came out here, we kind of got a vibe for LA and living here, and then, so it was, and the connection really did help actually when I came back too, so it's great. Do you remember your co-op? Yeah, my co-op was in Toronto. I lived at a motion graphics studio, so it was a little bit, it wasn't quite a TV animated show, but it was fun because they didn't really have any animators there, so I was able to get ideas in terms of storyboarding and story for motion graphics, like complete football plays and stuff like that. So it was a cool experience. It was something that was like tangential to what I do now, but I did really enjoy it as well.
My co-op was actually probably the best kind of my life because it was the summer and it was in an animation studio in Montreal. We were like a small team and they actually taught me how to animate there. And then I go back and have a job there every summer since between school. And I was so lucky, and the people I met there are still like my friends until forever. Yeah, it was really like so amazing.
It becomes just a way for you to have a connection with meaningful kind of side by sides with people. So that's why I'm asking what everyone's experience has been like with the hybrid, where you can have those one-on-one, still close connections remotely and in person, and how you can make sure that it's kind of tethered together so that you still feel that sense of community. I predict that you will question that.
I grew up just outside of Toronto, Canada.
Woo! I do that every time, don't mind me.
I had been coming here to the States to do animation school, but I've been kicking myself ever since because afterwards I came here as a and so I just wanted to hear about you gave some great insights on it. What about Sheridan specifically you would love to do there? And I also have a question in terms of is it partly transfer over or the master's program now? I just always felt this connection to it. This is Canadian school. That's all I know.
Thanks for coming. Do you want to take it? Well, so the first question was about their experience.
Yeah, what do you feel like about Sheridan?
For me, it was the community, so my peers, really. And you don't start out not knowing them, and then as you get, through the, I think, third year group film, I think that's the part that I really figured out, what people like, what their personalities are. But to this day, we still joke about this one short that we started in one summer and we never did. Like, we just did like the beatboard and that was it. And like now I get to work with the same people and we talk about it all the time. But like at least we're doing this now. I know. So it's the community. I think that is the biggest thing for me. Yeah.
I do agree 100%. It's the people that I met at Sheridan is really the best part. And it was also my first time getting to focus on art. Like I said, I didn't really know anything about animation before joining. I just like drawing. So it was like I was suddenly meeting a bunch of people who wanted to do this same thing, which is like a niche, it's like a niche industry to go into. If you're not exposed to animation, you can tell people you want to be an animator. Just like, what? Like, are you going to draw Mickey Mouse? Like, yeah, kind of. So, I don't know, it was nice to connect with people and have access to like more information about what this career path was, because I really didn't have access to my point.
And there's also the alumni there. Like, I was always fascinated when I went to the Sheridan in the new building, well, back then it was new. And I saw the posters and all the movies that I just grabbed and loved and we posted to them and people working at proper school. And I was always like, it was such a magic and so inspiring about it. So that was also, it's really like, and when I went in there, I started getting to know the people. I was the autistic one, like, hey, like I was always feeling weird everywhere else, like different like interests in animation and VFX and all that stuff. Suddenly everybody was like me and everybody liked to draw all the time, like literally like all the time. And I was like, wow, I never thought I would find this ever. And here we are.
I'll give you a Canadian reference. There's Tim Hortons, which is a Canadian coffee spot, and there's a Mascot campus, and there was a long line at the fraternity campus. And I walked by and I was kind of like, oh man, there's a long line. And then I looked and I could see 3 hand they were animation students sketching people behind making the coffee, because there was a long queue. They were just like sketching the Tim Hortons barista while they were waiting. And I was like, but it's thinking about those entry points, right? And it's like, so there's opportunities for you to meet with your classmates, there's opportunities to meet with alumni, there's opportunities in pubs, and you're talking about that. And as I think it was you that was saying, like, if something doesn't go right, it's like, what's that little win that we maybe see there? And it's saying, like, you just get those little building blocks, right? So it's not this, like, impossible thing to climb, but it's just like little steps, and you have people with support systems around you. Regarding other places, yes, we have graduate certificates in visual effects and computer animation, and digital creature, and game, and illustration, and design. We will not. So we can definitely connect you to it. So it's thinking about, what all of you have said, of like something that's, if you're interested in this thing in general, and there's some kind of parts that you think are eccentric, they're actually a whole other pathway. And then you meet all these other people. And then you start piecing it together and you see, we've been around for 55 years, so there's a lot of alumni. I know that some of the men have worked with you, or, it's always this kind of surprise. I bought a book from someone in the art booth and then realized they were an alumni after I left. So it's like figuring out where it gives you a sense of community and belonging, and it's collaboration, not competition, right? There's enough success for everyone. And that's what we're trying to kind of imbue. I think we have time for another question if there is one. Yeah, in the back.
So I'm a student at Sheridan right now. Do you have any advice for people who are graduating from college?
What's your kind of interest?
Animation.
Well, that's a good question. Do you know where, like, as an animator, do you know what you want to focus on? VFX or CG, features, or TV?
Going towards like feature or TV, honestly.
Feature or TV, because I guess most animators kind of like find it easier to get from TV animation first and then transition to feature. But that might be like very difficult with CAD. So what I pick up advice is to maybe try and get just many top, just get.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't be picky when it's your first job. Don't think you're gonna get your ideal gig right away.
Yeah, it's like there are some unicorns out there, but chances are that most of us are not, which is okay. And then it's not the app. You can always make opportunities have learning. It's not asking you questions. And you can always take, there's so many resources out there to take extra courses to work on the things that you find you're the same. That it's only the beginning for you on this. You know, if you deculture mind, you will grow really quickly. But just start doing it. Don't don't dismiss jobs because you don't like the show or you don't like the characters. Just pick anything and then you grow from there.
Because you'll also meet people, from the job, they might move somewhere else and take you on to the next project or something like that. So don't be super picky outside it. But having an idea of what you want to do is probably the biggest thing. Have clarity on that, and if you feel like you're lacking in something, really analyze yourself and work toward, getting that better so that you can get the job.
Yeah, just to add to that, I started out in the character team, and I wanted to be an art director, but I think a lot of art directors come from background painting, background supervising, and it's like kind of the path I see most. And I had been told by someone I really respect that I would be a good producer because I'm very organized. And so I ended up working in production. I moved into like a manager role at the studio I was at. I worked with the marketing team, the recruiting team. For 2 years was, I ended up, producing like a short film. So for 2 years I was doing something that was really unrelated to my path, the path that I wanted towards art directing. And I, like you guys have said, like just had an open mind. Someone was like, you'd be a good producer, and here's this opportunity. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try it out. And I realized it wasn't for me. But while at the time I felt like, I've wasted my time here because I'm not going towards this one thing I want. There's not one path to get where you want or you want to be. Like, I am art director now, and it turns out that the experience I have in production is really beneficial to a lot of the problem solving I have to do. The job I had at the bank, like I was talking to financial advisors all day, but those communication skills are things that I have used in all my leadership roles since then. So I think something I wish I knew when I was graduating was that you don't have to, it's not like a step A, B, and C, or else it's not working out. Like, I had a very meandering path to this point, and that's okay. Just be open to learning new things.
And I also, I was working to be animating features, but I was in TV for 5 years, which I found was too long. I was so frustrated with that. And now, with hindsight, I see how that was beneficial to me as well, because on the TV, it was fast-paced, and there was a lot of different shows. So now I have a skill, I can work really quickly if I need to, because it forced me to find shortcuts and to think quicker, to make decisions quicker, and to be very flexible. So that's also, in the end, that was the really good thing that I learned, which I maybe would struggle with. He's not out there, so people know.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing I wanted to say is that when I started out, maybe I wasn't so clear about what I wanted, and I landed in TV. So there will be, even after you graduate, points in your career that you will reassess where you want to be. And so I had that kind of clarity at one point where I was directing in the TV series and the pipeline was fine, but it was not creatively fulfilling. And so you will often have moments that you need to reassess yourself and think, okay, is this what I want to keep doing, or do I want to pivot? And so just having clarity of what you want is probably the biggest thing for when you're graduating, so you can work toward it, and however long it takes.
Do you have advice on how to, your students, so say they know pinboards, and say they have artists or someone that they're following on social media or that they see in different projects, how would you recommend them to make contact? Like, how do they make contact or decide what? Consider a committee or other associations or clubs or something that they could join in the industry. Like, you're on LightBox, you used to be in the know, and if they're in the right spot to begin, but are there other places that they could maybe join or start that you can think of?
I think reaching out is always okay. I don't mind it, especially if someone's really particular about the industry. They want to learn. I'm excited by it. It's the odd ones that are not really in the field that reach out and they're like, okay, well, I'm in tech, thanks. So there's a bit of that. But I would say, aside from that, after you graduate too, just taking courses or being
at these kinds of events is really helpful to reconnect with your own peers, but also meet people. Is there anything?
Yeah, I agree. I've reached out to people when I wanted to move down to the States. I reached out to a lot of people. I guess I would say, most people actually respond, but it might take a while. A lot of people are really busy, so I kind of send it out with like, hey, hope you have time, and I got some great responses from that. I also think, if there's something that you want to do that you're not getting the opportunities for, I recommend doing it in your personal time and showcasing that you can do it. That's been a reality of my career. I've kind of always had to show that I can do something before I was given the job. I don't know that that's ideal, but I've certainly done things that, didn't quite fit my job description at the time, but I was showing that I could do this other thing, and then I ended up getting a job because I had established that I knew how to do it. So, if you want to do feature animation, for example, like we're on getting feature job opportunities that try and little bits of animation that are featured quality so that someone can see what you're doing. Don't just rely on the work that the studio is asking you to do because it might not fit what we're able to be. And a lot of times just need to see that you can do the thing with it.
So like thinking all these online courses, there's so many online schools out, have they tell you to teach them? Sometimes it's just good to just take the class, not only to learn animation, but to also make a connection with that person so they'll know you. And then let's say if there will be jobs opening in their studios, you will be a familiar face. So that's also a big part of a familiar reality in this industry as well.
Yeah. It sounds like there have been a lot of themes in this conversation that can clue by, we're talking about intentionality, whether it's the stroke or whether it's like specifics and how you approach someone, like have a specific question or a specific ask, perseverance and resilience, collaboration and teamwork, thinking about your classmates as your network in a collaborative team environment.
Said that to me.
Or just say, Mayor said that to me. Then it's a common thing, like your community is now, right? Because it's who you're with every day. Scandiffio, where do you go through projects, living all about how to, deal with different personality types and creative passions. I'd like to thank our three panelists for participating and being so generous, like Nikolai Lockertsen here. Really